Hey guys, my name is Sara Elise. I'm an astrologer in Toronto, Canada, and I am putting this video together today for Debra Silverman's community. I am her featured astrologer this month, and I am putting this content out to kind of help people with the upcoming Pluto-Saturn alignment. Which is imminent. It's literally happening in 6 days. On January 12th, Pluto and Saturn come together at 22 degrees of Capricorn. So what I want to do today is talk a little bit about that, demystify some of the mystery, and kind of go through the wheel of the houses to help people conceptualize how this conjunction might be impacting you. Now, first of all, just to summarize, so this conjunction has been like huge. People have been making an enormous deal about this, myself included, because I really feel like what's happening intuitively is that we're creating a gate. There's like this psychic or spiritual gate that we're walking through. Now, what is the archetype of Capricorn all about? Let's look at that. Capricorn is the responsible builder who goes out into society and creates the structures and the forms that we need to survive. Look at the planet right now. Look all around you, everywhere. Whether you're a climate change denier or you're a climate change whatever supporter, I don't even know what you would call that. You can't deny that stuff is at a turning point. We're at a turning point. We really cannot continue on the earth the way we have been in the past. And so there's like this immediacy, right? Where we have to take responsibility and start to build society in order to stay safe and create a collective, cohesive way of being that helps all of us thrive. Because we've been very selfish and very isolated, taking care of number one, very greedy, very fear-based. And if we're going to survive into the future, we have to elevate. There has to be a collectivization. We have to work together. There has to be cooperation, right? There has to be an elevation in our consciousness, like a raising of our frequency, so to speak, right? We have to get out of our shit and embrace something a little bit less personal, more transpersonal, and more collectively oriented, more from the heart and from the higher mind. We have to use our real brains, people. We can't just be thinking out of our navel, as my teacher Alan Oken would say. So okay, so this conjunction in Pluto and Saturn coming together in Capricorn is kind of like this monumental opportunity to shift the structural balance of power and change and transform the way we are on the planet. So the last time this alignment happened was the Reformation, where the sort of the Catholic Church kind of got taken down, and the whole concept of paying indulgences was questioned. So the power of the Catholic Church was realigned, and the power of God was reestablished. I suppose right now, if you look around, like what are the power structures that aren't working on our planet right now? And what are the shadows that are coming up to show themselves to us so that we can take responsibility for them? Because Pluto, as an impact, as an archetypal impact, will show us what the darkness is. So it brings us down into the shadow. It brings us into the underbelly to show us the non-regenerating patterns, the patterns that are not helpful any longer, the patterns that are old, or the patterns that need to die. It shows us what those patterns are, and enabling us to face the shadow and come into a transformed state. Now, Saturn, on the other hand, is the archetype of the builder and the constructor, and taking responsibility and taking hold and doing the work and being responsible and being structured and like just like holding on to it and doing it ourselves, right? And so with Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn coming together, it's kind of like we can see all the darkness in the structures. We can see the politicians who are corrupt. We can see the corporations who are greedy. We can see the fact that we're raping the resources of the planet and that it's hurting us and killing billions of animals. And we can see extinction, and we can see the oceans that are clogged with plastic, and we can see all of it. So what are we going to do, right? What are we going to do? How do we build it anew? And that's the kind of the 0 point that we're about to hit. We're about to hit this point of no return where there's a real reckoning that's happening in all of us. And we have to stand up and take responsibility, because no one is going to do it for us. We can't trust the structures that we used to trust. We can't trust the system. We can't trust the government. We can't trust the education system. We can't trust the university professors. We just can't. We have to do it. We have to all band together and do this ourselves. There's no other choice. Otherwise, calamity, potentially, right? This is kind of what's looming. There's like this, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next? We have to face it. We have to rise together and do something. So how is this affecting us individually? Because we can kind of, we can see that it's happening collectively. We can see it on the outside. We can see it in the physical world. But I'm a little bit more interested in what's going on in the interior space. As above, so below, as within, so without. So the alignment is impacting all of us on the subjective level as well as on the collective level. Now, on the subjective level, the things that we have relied on to keep us safe, so the structures that we've built inside our psyche to keep us secure or keep us safe, that we've built up in order to establish security, right, Capricorn, those are crumbling. If they're not helpful any longer, they're coming down. So we are likely facing into our own structural misalignments and our own patterns, and where we've given our own power away, and where we're not taking responsibility, and we're being asked to like really work it, like really get it right, really build something different and something new and something better in ourselves. Now, the place in ourselves and in our life where we're being asked to do this will be indicated by where Pluto and Saturn, where the conjunction is falling within the 360-degree wheel of the birth chart. Okay, so which house of the chart, which quadrant, which of the 12 quadrants of the chart are these planets impacting? That will show you where the work is happening for you personally. So right now I'm going to take you through each of the houses and kind of try to generate some insight or some thoughtfulness or some ability to kind of reflect on what that might mean for you. I don't know if this is going to be accurate for everybody. I'm just going to do my best shot and try and kind of point toward what the impact might be by describing each house and what it means and kind of going from there. Okay, so bear with me. We start out with the first house. Now, let me just say, first of all, if those of you out there are new to astrology, you don't know, you're like, well, which house is Pluto and Saturn falling into? I have no idea. You have to go to astro.com, okay? Go to astro.com and input your chart. Input your chart. Then you go here. You know what? I am going to actually just show you rather than talk you through it. I think it's just way easier to show you. Okay, so hold on a second while I get my screen shared. Okay, so here we are on astro.com, okay? We go to free horoscopes. We go down to extended chart selection. You can put in your birth time here, and you can kind of like bring it all up. You add a new person, and then you put in your birth information. Then you go down to chart type, and you go down and select natal chart with transits, okay? And you're going to click on the show chart, and you're gonna bring it up. So this is my chart. Now I'm gonna look. Now, this is my chart on the inside. This is what I look like. This is my pattern. And on the outside is where all of the planets fall today. So this is where all of the planets are in the sky today. And you guys can see, oh my God, we have this huge stellium. Look at where all the planets are. They're all sitting right here together in Capricorn. We've got Jupiter, South Node, Mercury, Sun, Saturn, and Pluto. Look how close Pluto and Saturn are. They are at 22 degrees Pluto and 21 degrees Saturn. They are like closer than a degree together. They're within a degree. So this alignment is coming hard and fast. We're in the center of it, and it's about to hit full on in 6 days. And now we look, now I use a porphyry house system. So, but if you use Placidus, the default will be Placidus. But in my house system, I see that Pluto and Saturn are conjunct within the 8th house of my chart. It could also be the 7th house, depending on the house system that you're using. So it kind of depends. It's a little bit on the cusp there, right? So I would be looking at themes that have to do with relationship and power. Okay, so that would be sort of an opening up to powerful sources outside of myself. So opening up to others and relationship and intimacy. This is the big theme for me, and I can attest to you, it certainly is the big theme for me. But anyway, so wherever you find these planets in your chart, you just look to the center of this quadrant, this piece of pie, and you'll see a number, and that will tell you which of the houses this alignment is happening in your chart, in which of the houses it's happening in your chart. So that's how we identify it, okay? Now, I'm gonna go around the wheel, and I'm gonna talk about each of these houses sequentially. I think I'm gonna stop sharing because you don't need to really stare at my chart, but nevertheless, there we go. Okay, so when we start off, always we start in the first house. So the first house kind of represents like this immediate instinctual self that we are. Like whenever you have stuff in the first house, it's almost hard for you to reflect on it because it just is who you are. Like there's like this primacy or this instinctual essence, this beingness of whatever is in the first. So if Pluto and Saturn are conjunct in your first house, first of all, it probably means you're a Capricorn rising. And it probably means that there's something around actually how you are, like how you really like express yourself into the world that is changing. Like there's like a feeling like the way you are being isn't working anymore, that there's something that needs to shift, or like that you feel like almost like there's like a block in how you used to be, how you used to present, how you used to behave, how you used to see yourself, right? And that's kind of that's on shaky ground, or you're being required to see it and take responsibility for it. Now, that's not an easy thing to do in the first house because it's such a primary experience, the first house. To reflect upon stuff that happens in the first house is not simple. So the conjunction might be asking you to kind of like settle down, go a little slower, take stock, really own it, and like own the feeling of your alignment, because it's like in the body, right? The first house is very in the body. So, you know, issues for the first house might be, how do I present myself in a different way that is in more integrity? Like that is in deeper levels of integrity. Like what does integrity mean? For me, integrity means getting in alignment with my truth, with my essence, right? With what I am, and being in control of it. So like the first house, Pluto-Saturn, would be a lot about sovereignty and being in control of yourself and how you push out into the world, how you are like presenting. Does that make sense to you guys? So that's a very externalized house. The second house we move into, and it's an internal. So we go external, internal, external, internal. That's all. The houses are all like that. They go, 1 is external, it's extroverted, and 2 is internal, 3 is extroverted, 4 is internal. It kind of like fluctuates. So the second house is kind of where it's our deepest sense of security and how we belong and how we feel safe on the planet. So the second house kind of governs what we need in order to feel like we are able to provide for ourselves, that we're able to stabilize, that we can make ends meet, that we can keep the lights on and feed ourselves, that we can take care of our primal needs, and that we will be able to be okay, that we have what it takes to be okay. It also, at a deeper level, really rules what we value deeply. So the things that really matter to us at a really deep level tend to be the things that we manifest, right? Like if you want to see what your values are, just look around at your life, look around at the physical things that you surround yourself with. If you value beauty, you're going and aesthetics, you're going to look around and you're going to see a beautiful space. If you value minimalism and detachment, you're going to look around and see a very different space, right? So we physicalize our value system. The second house also rules money, right? Which is another physicalization of our value. How much money we have, how much money we're able to generate, has a lot to do with how much we value ourselves, whether we see ourselves as being worthy of such things or unworthy of money and resource, right? How much our inner resources manifest on the external. So second house Pluto-Saturn stuff might be, it could be you're being asked to rewire your values right now. I would say probably in a Capricorn texture might be even to kind of dematerialize your values, to say, does it really make sense for me to value these status symbols, or to value, XYZ, like my Prada bag or my fancy Mercedes Benz or whatever it is that I hold up as a status symbol of power and control in order to make me feel safe. Like these structures or these externalized material things that I've had in my life, or perhaps these ways that I have held on to beliefs. Beliefs really live in the second house. I hold on to these beliefs that I say, these are me, right? These are my beliefs. They're mine, because the second house kind of rules the things that are ours. So if there are things that are yours that you've been attached to, second house is a lot about attachment, that aren't working for you anymore and that are holding you back from really connecting with what actually matters and what really matters in you, then those things should be coming up right now for reevaluation, realignment. And so you can take responsibility for that. And that would be my kind of my way into that one. The third house is around like your intellect and your mind and the way you communicate. And I like to think about it, it's the house of Gemini. So I love, I don't have anything in the third house, but I'm a double Gemini, so I kind of understand it. It's like the people that we meet when we're walking down the street. This is what I like to say about it, which is kind of funny. I think that's Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, right? The way we connect into the world around us, like the way we make these short neural connections with life itself, and the way we think about life itself, the way we categorize it, the way we communicate to it, the way we connect with it, the way we make contact with life itself, the people around us, the places we go. If we are in a Capricorn, if there's a Capricorn in the third house, then I would guarantee that you probably like to be the one in charge, right? You liked that your words, the words you choose to use may be a little domineering. They could be a little controlling, that your mind might be a little judgmental. All of this stuff may be areas that you're being asked to review. Like how do I communicate with other people? Am I coming across the way I want to come across? How do I extend out into my environment? Am I coming across in a way that is like being received and that is returning to me in a loving way? Or am I creating discord and disharmony in the environment? So am I either trying to have power over others and dominating them, or am I allowing other people to have power over me? I'm like, Capricorn is very hierarchical, so you can have power over or power under. You can be up the ladder or down the ladder. So looking at that, looking at how you can take responsibility for the way you come out, for your mental constructs about life, the way you communicate to people, the way you judge people. I think that's a really big one for this alignment in the third house. And also how you can take more responsibility, like really take responsibility. Because if you've got this alignment happening in the third house, if you have Capricorn in the third house, then you're kind of a master of words, aren't you? You really can build with your words. Your words really matter. So taking careful look at the things you choose to say would be the way to work with that alignment. Now, the fourth house has to do with our inner emotional. So again, we're going in with the third house or the fourth house. It's an inside house, and it's about the emotional body, and it's about our feelings of emotional security. And generally speaking, the fourth house is kind of described as our subconscious, the part of us that gets imprinted when we're a little child. So it's very childlike. It's kind of like and it's also described as being home and family, the way we nurture and like to be nurtured, the way we feel about ourselves and about others. Now, I've seen Capricorn in the fourth house, people with a lot of Capricorn in the fourth house, be the person in the family that everybody always comes to, like they're the rock, right? Like they're the ones that just gets all the stuff done. Like they're taking care of their mother over there, and they're taking care of their parents are divorced, they're taking care of the dad over there, and they're all the siblings call them, right? Like they're always on call, and they're just holding it all together. I've seen that. And I've seen that can also turn into kind of like a martyrdom system where you are taking it all for others. You're doing all this work in the family. You're taking so much on your shoulders for other people in your family that you crumble and you get angry. And then your efforts become bitter and mean to people. And I've also seen it where you can be very controlling of people in your family, and not necessarily mean to, but you've given yourself this I am the boss sort of a persona, and that's not necessarily the right use of Capricorn. I mean, Capricorn is incredibly hardworking. Like, don't get me wrong. It is your, delight and great honor to be of service to your family, but not at the expense of yourself. And I think that the Pluto and Saturn alignment in the fourth house has to also do with making sure that we're taking responsibility for taking care of us, for our own inner needs, for our own inner feelings. And being responsible, really responsible for holding ourselves softly and with tenderness and with care, so that we can show up for other people and we don't run out of steam, we don't run out. So that's one idea for that. Now, the fifth house has to do with everything that we create. It's like our personal self-expression. It's where our ego gets to shine. It's like really the pinnacle of the self, right? It's the fullness of the self, the fullness of the ego. It's Leo, the house of Leo. So with a Saturn and Pluto conjunction in Capricorn in the fifth house, what I would suggest is that you're being asked to take a really very sober look at how you are expressing yourself in the world and what you are creating. What are the things that you're creating? Because everything that you're creating is your own self-expression. And if you're not taking responsibility for that self-expression, what is the impact? Because this is what you got, like this is what you're giving. And so it's really important for you to make sure that it's in alignment with what you want to be giving. And the construct around that might potentially be that what you're doing is for gain, personal gain, versus collective benefit. So that's another thing to potentially look for with a Capricorn-Pluto conjunction in the fifth, is that, if the intention behind what your creation is, the intention behind it, like really asking yourself, who am I actually? Like, and that who I am is what is going to be fueling my creative expression. So getting really clear on what your own ego is and taking responsibility for it. Like if it's out of control and over the top, self-aggrandized, you might be getting that reflection back from reality right now and having to kind of take a sober pill and go down. And on the opposite, if you are really hard on yourself and you don't give yourself enough credit and you just keep like picking on yourself and hurting yourself and putting yourself down, then your self-expression is crippled, right? It can be on either side of that coin. With the fifth house, you can either be overly inflated or you can be really, really under inflated, right? You can be taking like, like the victim or like I'm terrible or I'm in, whatever it is, the weak one. And neither of those is true. The truth about the fifth house is that when we're in integrity in the fifth house, what happens is we're allowing God to shine through us. We're not necessarily owning the shine. We're not the source of it all. you take the pressure off yourself a little bit, right? Like take the pressure off having to be the source of it all and allow something to work through you. That would be my recommendation for the fifth house Pluto-Saturn conjunction. The sixth house Pluto-Saturn conjunction, excuse me. Well, the sixth house, let me see. I think the sixth house probably has to do with taking responsibility for your health and your body and your well-being, and the kind of like the way that you kind of come at life from moment to moment. There's sometimes a tendency with the sixth house to like focus on the negative, right? Like to really, really get hard on yourself and to focus on like just to kind of hold this glass half empty view of life and to get bitter. And to, you keep, with Capricorn in the sixth, like you keep showing up, you keep showing up, but you don't like it, right? Because you're angry or you're mean or you can never get it right. You're just mad at yourself. You're critical. But with the sixth house, like the opportunity is to see how do you structure and routinize your life and your day-to-day contribution and your work in a way that is in service to the betterment of others, and in service to your betterment, and in service to the betterment of life itself. Like if you can lift it up into a higher quality and to a more aligned quality and see that it is your responsibility to get things right, but that there is no perfection. You can't be perfect, right? You can only do the best you can do. And when you bring yourself in service to another or to the moment or to life itself, there's an externalization of your energy. So your energy flows out instead of flowing in. And then you get the glass half full. In fact, the glass doesn't even matter at that point because the energy is circulating. So it's creating like a loop and it's going out into the environment, which is really important for the sixth house as well. That's when your health starts to improve, right? When you stop like self-annihilating yourself and going too deep into the critical dark places. It might also have to do with work. The sixth house can often show up as work issues. Like, how do you take more responsibility at the water cooler? How do you take more responsibility for your workflow? How do you take more responsibility for the way you're structuring your literal physical reality as you walk through the day, right? Or for your health routine, or your yoga, or your medicines, or your nutrition, or whatever it might be. All of that stuff has to do with sixth house. The seventh house is relationships. That's the relationship house. So in the seventh house, we had to take responsibility for the way we see others and the way others see us, how we come at the other in relationships. So I don't know, are you taking too much on in your relationships? Are you being bossy? Are you being domineering? Are you like, what is it? Or are you not letting people in at all? Like, are you depriving yourself? Are you being too hard on yourself? Are you cruel? All of this stuff. I have a Capricorn moon in the seventh house, and it's really afflicted in my chart. So I have a lot of issues with it. Like I have to work with it a lot in my psyche, and it can be really cold, right? Like it can be very cruel and mean to people and really want to hold itself apart. Like it likes to be alone. It doesn't want to get into anything. It wants to just be by itself. And it can also come across as really bossy. like sometimes it gets just like, okay, it's really direct, right? And like people don't like that. So I'm always like in the seventh house, like we're always kind of dealing in this house of mirrors, like where the way people are reflecting you back to yourself kind of is your opportunity, or it's like your invitation to take a look inside you and make changes. And then to see whether the way people are relating to you is changing, because that's when you will know whether or not you're doing the job that you're being asked to do, is when people's response to you starts to shift. Yeah. So what you are inside is reflected to you, back to you from the outside. It's that reverberation back and forth of the seventh house. Now, the eighth house in the chart has to do with, it's a very magical house. It has to do with opening up to resources that are outside of you. So it kind of has to do with like, well, let me put some of it together for you. Asking for help might live in the eighth house, or going outside of your comfort zone might live in the eighth house, or taking on more responsibility and really showing yourself to the world so that other resources can support you and flood in, might live in the 8th house for Capricorn, Saturn, and Pluto. That's how it's working for me. I feel like I'm almost being invited or asked to face all the places that hold me back from engaging energetically with life. And I'm being kind of asked to like come forward and ask life for more. The 8th house really represents more. It's the expansion energy. It rules empowerment and growth and expansion and the death of the old and the birth of the new. So this would sort of be the area of interplay that the Saturn Pluto is kind of playing out on an energetic level. At like a mundane level, it might show itself as like power plays, because, you know, like like when we're really fixed and we're really stubborn and we're really stuck in ourselves, that can come across as I'm holding on, like I'm holding on to power. I'm going to hold on to myself and I'm going to hold on to power. But if you make yourself vulnerable and if you open yourself up, do you have any idea how much power is available to you? But you have to take the chance, right? You have to let yourself be powerless in order to become more powerful. So there's these power dynamics that happen in the 8th house that might be showing themselves in your life if this is where the alignment is happening. It's kind of like becoming more than you ever thought possible is actually like you have to become nothing in order for that to happen. Does that make sense? In order to become everything. So there's like this death that has to happen in order for the expansion to occur. Now, the 9th house in the chart is all about where we find higher wisdom, higher truth. It's our intuition, it's spirituality, it's travel, it's adventure, it's philosophy, it's like teaching, it's standing on the podium and being able to really be responsible for what you know is true. So I guess what you'd be asked right now in your life might be, are the truths that you've been living according to really serving you? Are they really what you believe in? Because sometimes we get very fixated on truth, right? We get very dogmatic, and dogmatism also lives in the 9th house. So the more rigidly dogmatic you are, this is the way it is. This is the way it's going to be. I'm going to tell everybody about it. You know, like the whole I am like I'm going to convert you, right? That whole, that's the 9th house, right? And it doesn't necessarily work. So taking a look at what you believe and taking a look at really asking, is this actually real? Is this really true? Is this really serving the highest good? Is this the greatest truth that I can know? Can I go a little higher? Can I let go of that one? Can we go a little bit up? Can we elevate the truth? Because I tell you, there's really, at the essential level, there is only one universal truth, and that is God. That is source. That is the light. And when we connect to that truth, then our intuition opens and we become receptacles of divine truth, right? And divine wisdom, which is greater than any human truth we can conceive of, truly. So there's like this invitation to kind of really take responsibility for where you are focusing your energy and what level of truth you are allowing yourself to go to in order to present into the world and take responsibility for yourself. That's one way of looking at it. The 10th house has to do with our social standing and the way that we take that truth from the 9th house and put it out into the world and build. I mean, the 10th house is the house of Capricorn. So it is all about building the social structures, creating things that matter for people, making a difference in the world, having an impact, creating a career. The questions to be asking yourself in this realm are, what is my motivation? Who am I serving? What part of the collective, like to what level of service will I go? How much am I holding on to outmoded concepts of success and achievement? How are these outmoded concepts holding me back from really doing the job that I am meant to do? Because there is a calling right now on the planet for all of us to wake up and take responsibility. And perhaps if you are having the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in your 10th house, you're one of those workers who can actually make a big physical impact for all of us. So please listen to your heart. please listen to your mind and soul, and come forward with integrity into the world. We need you. God, we need you. We need you. Look at the shenanigans that are going on at all levels of the structure, right? We need people with integrity to take control, to be responsible, and to not be afraid. Now, the 11th house is all about leading people. It's all about reaching community and trying to lift people up and trying to show them the way forward. And, you know, there can be a lot of shadow dynamics with group dynamics, right? Like when we want to affect the group, we want to control it. We get too attached, we get too dogmatic again, and we become negative. I mean, look at the difference between a school teacher who's teaching a class, who's doing so from like a totalitarian, this is the way, my way or the highway, I'm going to punish you, you better do it right, like that kind of punitive perspective, versus an inspirational leader in a classroom who's got 30 kids, and she's lifting their spirits, she's seeing the best in all of them, she's accepting what their weaknesses are, and she's focusing on their strengths, and she's helping them move forward into the best that they can be. Well, that would be the right use of Capricorn in the 11th house, yeah? Helping structure the reality so that people can lift into the best that they can be, holding the space, creating the space for people to lift up and move forward, rather than trying to control and rigid and domineering and bossy, yeah? So that might be something as well. Too conservative. It would also be like looking at the way you see life and kind of addressing whether or not some of your views are of an old guard and need to be revised. There may be a revision of your own of the way you approach life, or the vision that you have for your life, right? The hopes and dreams that you have for your life. Like, how do these need to shift? How do the way you bring yourself to group dynamics have to shift? And groups also, that's also family groups. Like, I don't want you to get hung up on, like, it can be all of society as a group. It could be small groups that we get involved with on a very local level. And it can even be familial groups, like, so collective groups of extended family members or friend groups, things like that as well, okay? Now, the 12th house is a spiritual house. So it's the house of mysticism and connection to God, but it's also the house of the collective unconscious. With anybody who has Capricorn in the 12th, and one of our mentors, Valeria, has this enormous stellium of Capricorn in the 12th house. I've always been so impressed with her. Like, there's and clients I've had who have Capricorn in the 12th, they kind of just feel like this sense of responsibility for their spirituality. Like, their job, Capricorn, is literally to ground this knowledge that they have, that we're all one, that we are all part of this, that we're all part of a collective, and that we can all like hold each other in love, right? And so whatever it is that's contracting and showing you the shadow might be your tendency to pull away, to not want to engage, or like to be a miserly with your energy, to not take responsibility, or to hide. That could be something, or to feel bitter and insecure and just not have the courage to step in, because perhaps you feel like you are disconnected or not part of, that you're like disassociating. So like the call would be to really pony up and take accountability for yourself as a channel, and for yourself as a vehicle of the collective good. And to ask, like, where is it that I can serve? Like, how does God want to move through me? It's a spiritual house, but it can really present on the real world level in terms of, what are we doing to help others? What are we doing to create here a dream that is better for everybody? Will you step up as well and allow the divine to support you in your efforts? Okay, so that's kind of the way I would take a look at these houses, and I would then sort of reflect upon what's been going on for you in the last, say, 6 months. I really noticed the Capricorn-Pluto conjunction coming in at Easter. Do you guys remember back in April? There was that's when the planets came the closest that they would be until a week from today. So that was kind of like the first, what I would call the first pass of a Pluto transit, where always like in the first pass, I've noticed it's kind of like the issue comes up, right? Like, okay, here's the situation. And then we go back down into the shadow. So from, probably from about April till now, we've been in this underworld journey of like really having these issues come up and having to look at them and like having to kind of re-go through the pattern and look at it and see it and come into a different relationship with it and mull it over and chew it over and be like bereft and broken by it, and then to find our courage within it and to really want to do some serious good with it, like to change it, right? And now with this conjunction happening in 6 days, it's like, this is the final moment where you are going to go to the deepest place that you can go with this pattern, and where you can go to a pure state of holy emptiness. If as deep as you can go with it, as empty as you can be with it, the better off you are. Because after this conjunction finishes, we're going to start rebuilding. All of 2020 is the rebuild. So whatever happens in the next 3 weeks, this is kind of like the 0 point. This is the bottom. And then we're going to start to grow from here. And the growth can only be as good as we are willing to go down and see all the darkness, see it for what it is. It does not have power over us. But the more we can take responsibility to just see it, the better off we are in the rebuild, because that's how much responsibility we can take, right? And we can all rebuild it together. And we have Jupiter in Capricorn this whole year that is giving us this like real significant push forward into this rebuild. It's helping us enjoy the work, because it has not been very fun. The work has not been super fun, but with Jupiter there to support us, we got some real like oomph behind us. We got like the wind in our sails, so to speak, so we can get the job done. Now there's going to be a really big eclipse and full moon on January 10th. And I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I may be able to do that on my newsletter. So if you want to sign up for my newsletter, go to saraeliseastrology.com. It's SARAELISE astrology.com, and sign up for my newsletter, because I send out like a video like this at least once a month, sometimes twice. And it's filled with information and with esoteric information and with my reflections and all of that stuff. People really like it. I would love to share it with you. Okay? Take care, you guys. Bye.